I love it when the mic goes on.
Girl, remind me to tell you.
I don't know who it is.
Neutral.
Yeah,
That's science, babe.
that's what's diabolical.
That is what's diabolical.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Sexy.
Slutty? Cute?
Both.
Do
combined.
both, actually.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
Anyways, welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode of Remind Me to Tell You, RM2TU. I'm Jess.
I'm David. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Okay, we went live.
So, a big week for us.
Big week.
So, Jess,
Tell
how
me.
are you feeling about it? How do you feel about we dropped our episodes? How were you feeling that day? Were you anxious, nervous? Tell me about your journey.
I think you were more nervous about it actually like going live than me. Like my anxieties about it going live are probably a little bit deeper and more irrational than yours.
But it wasn't so bad. I don't
It
think-
really wasn't
There
so
was nothing
bad.
to be scared of or
Actually,
nervous.
it was probably one of our best days. I feel like we had done a lot of hard work.
Leading up to it, yeah.
Leading up to it, we had fucked up a few different things. We navigated those. We tried to stay positive. I mean, mostly you. I tend
Yes,
yeah.
yes. I'm the emotional support.
You're the emotional support, the manager of the tantrums and whatnot. I'm a little bit more like behind the scenes. I have my big noise canceling headphones on that I'm
Yeah.
working with, and he's like, "Girl, let's just go. Let's go. Come on." And I'm like, "You don't see what goes into this, okay?"
I just don't see what's going on in your brain.
That's
but
true.
It's a learning
A learning
experience.
curve.
Yes.
What is
yes.
the bigger learning curve? How to set up a podcast or navigating a neurodivergent brain?
And they're both hard and stuff.
Right.
But it's been more interesting learning about neurodivergency.
Thank you.
Because I'm understanding people in general a lot more
Mm-hmm.
and about that in
general.
like
Yeah.
in general. And I feel like that's gonna take me further in life. Whereas setting up podcasts, we did it. We're done. We don't have to do it again. We've got even closer because of it.
We've been living together,
Yeah.
which has been a lot of fun, but definitely
Yeah. But you know what they say, like when you travel with someone, you get to know them better.
right.
Working with them, also another level, and living with them.
So we are currently traveling together because
We're not in the city.
We're not in the city, so
No-
we're
no pun
traveling.
intended.
Yeah, exactly. So currently traveling together, living together, and working together. We've hit the trifecta.
Let's see what happens. I hope it blossoms even more.
It will. Okay, before we even get into today's topics,
Yeah.
I hope you have some breaking Bravo news for me.
I do, but do we want to talk about a little bit of, we had some comments about
Oh, yeah.
some feedback from,
I love feedback.
from friends and family. And by the way, thank you for everyone who's tuned in and listened. It's
Yes.
been like amazing, actually. It's been
It
so
really
fun.
has
Yeah.
been.
And
It's
we
been very
appreciate that, yeah.
validating.
Do you any feedback you've gotten from people that you want to share with?
So it was funny because so we're really trying to be mindful about overarching themes and flow and transitions and whatnot and D brain, whatever.
Here we go.
And yeah, so Girls Girl was kind of a thing. And like by the end of the editing and all of the footage that we had taken and had to get rid of, we were so fucking fed up of hearing the term Girls Girl. Like the amount of times that I was like, I have to cut it out. But it was really, really nice to get so much feedback from people being like, oh my God, I have a lot to say about that. And when I listened to episode 1, I had to go right into episode 2 because I felt like there were so many other things that I needed to say. So that was like positive feedback. That was my rose. My thorn
Yeah.
would perhaps be the fact that we fucked up with the countries. I don't want to spread misinformation.
Yes,
That is like,
we're not disinformation people.
we are not misinformation people.
I think
23.
the point was that there's not just 2 or 3 countries. Like most people just think it's Mexico,
Right.
U.S. and Canada.
Exactly.
Now
That was my rose and thorn. What
oh,
about you?
I one that's saying they loved the Nicole Richie quotes
That must have
that
made
part.
you feel
Yeah.
so good.
because I just touched like that was nothing. I have like a whole fucking repertoire of
Okay, so drop me another one.
you smell like onions.
A little context?
Thank you. I'm happy to explain. So basically, this is like the first season when they were living in Arkansas, and Paris and Nicole go out. They want to meet some boys. So relatable. Of
course.
Paris finds this like guy with these like white white Hollywood white teeth, big smile. So they have a nickname for him called Chops. And then
Are they dentures though?
no, he's
Okay.
young. He's
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah, they were like 2021. And then Nicole finds another boy and like making out hard that she like they stop and she's like, you smell like onions. So now I tell people that too when I make out after. No.
Every
course
time
not.
he burps, he says, "Excuse the mustard." Is that a Simple Life quote?
Yes, it
Is
is.
it?
Yeah. Do you need, yeah, it is literally.
I didn't know. Excuse the
Okay,
mustard.
okay. Try to be polite about it.
I mean, it makes it funny, but I'm now that we live together and work together and travel together,
This is the reality you're gonna have to face. I'm
right?
gonna keep
There's a
quoting
lot
her.
of sensory overwhelm
There's probably so many other
that
things.
comes with living with David. Slurping, the slurping.
You don't give me a straw to drink my iced coffee.
So now he knows. He wrote it down on his list. Every time I'm like, "What the fuck is
I ordered
this?"
on Amazon right away.
Did you?
Yeah.
What kind of straws though? Are they like eco-friendly?
I got the like metal ones that you could
Okay,
use.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. I don't like metal ones as much. If I'm
a-
being,
yeah, and
how do
also-
you know? He should have asked me, but he didn't. Anyways, that's fine. Metal ones are clean. The only reason why I prefer like glass to metal is because you can see through it, so you know when you're cleaning it if it's really squeaky clean.
Yeah.
Versus metal, it's like, I don't know. It gives like Love Is Blind, and so is the
Oh
dirt.
my God, it
Dirt
does.
is blind too.
I also enjoy like plastic in my mouth is not as like as aluminum.
I
and
agree.
Metal.
Yeah. I agree with that. Definitely.
But anyways, the thought that counts.
Yes. So do we have any other little tidbits of information that we want to talk about before we get
yeah.
into today's episode?
No, we're gonna get into the Bravo stuff.
Okay, get into it.
It wasn't since we last dropped. There hasn't been like crazy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to like. I'm not even sure if you know about things that happened in the last month. But since we were talking about 20 years of Housewives, you know they're doing a girls trip, right?
No, I didn't know.
I see. That's why I was bringing it up. So they're doing. You know how they had the Ultimate Girls Trip? They
course.
had different ones. So
Yeah.
now they're doing one for the 20th anniversary, and it's basically going to be Teresa, Vicky, Kyle Richards, Countess Luann, Lisa Barlow, Giselle, and Portia. They're filming, and it's already been filmed and everything, but they're traveling across the U.S. They're going to different cities,
Are they doing a road trip?
kinda, but not really. They're not driving. It's like they're going to the West Coast. They're going to Atlanta, Miami, New York, and in each city,
Unique New York.
And then they're going to different cities, and then basically other houses are going to show up. So it's about like 80 in total of housewives that are going to be on the show, but those 6 or 7 are going to be the core, and they're traveling through. So Nene Leakes is coming back. Yeah, so she apparently is within the first 10 minutes of the episode, but she's not part of the main cast. Those 6 or 7 that I announced are the ones that we're following them, and they're interacting with all other housewives. So it's coming out in 2 weeks, like in August, like August 9 or something like that.
That's
yeah.
very exciting. I love that. I love when there's crossover, when there's
Oh,
like,
yeah. So, like, the Rhode Island girls are in it. They're going to the Berkshires. They're going to Dorinda's place. So, there's a whole thing there. There's been drama, like, across the board with OC Housewives, Atlanta. So, Candace is in it, Phaedra, whatever. Like, they're it's going to be fun. Nene's, I think, is the biggest. And Kim Zolciak, I think, is on it as well.
well, I mean, Nene, I feel like we haven't seen in so long.
So, like, rumor has it that this is going to be kind of her introduction back into Bravo. It did not end well when she did quit.
Right.
There was a lawsuit, I don't know, with racism and all that. But she's in better terms, and I think they're hoping to have Nene come back for like the next season of Atlanta.
Well, I mean,
She is like a founding mother of the Housewives franchise.
right. Like when people talk about Mount Rushmore of housewives, like Nene Leakes must be there.
So
That's exciting.
We're definitely going to tune into that.
100%.
OC, since we're going to talk about that, you know, Shannon, one of her old producers, did write a comment on one of the OC promotion of this season saying how awful she is, like behind the scenes, terrible. She's not the same person on camera as she is
I
off
feel like we've
camera.
heard that before.
Yes, a lot. Even she was on that Love Hotel show, and one of the people on that show was mentioned it all. Yeah. Southern hospitality, I'm going to say.
Can I just say though about Shannon Bedore, because I
Yeah.
would, like when Ramona is just not a human to people that she works with and whatever, people that she feels are inferior, I feel like that is just reflective of Ramona's entitlement.
Yeah.
Whereas for Shannon, is it because of her entitlement, or is it because she's dysregulated in those moments and she's not masking and she's not putting on a smile for the cameras? Like, I just I don't know. How would I
have
know?
no idea. But apparently her quirkiness on camera is for the cameras. That she's not actually like that way in
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
Gotta believe what people say, you know?
Yeah. Southern Hospitality, I know you're not watching. I think everyone should, but there's even more drama. Rumors that Leva is fired.
From her own show. Like,
Yeah,
that
that's-
would be like the equivalent to firing LVP.
Yeah. So because the producers apparently love the cast and they can just not show, they just don't have to, half of them don't even work anymore or I don't know half of them, but some of them, it's like VPR. At one point they don't work there anymore. You can still have a show without them based around the bar. I don't know his name, Joe. He's one of the main people, and he literally made a post that he quit Republic and now is working for Craig and Austin's bar, which is like their direct competitor.
I didn't even know that Craig and Austin had a bar.
Some sort of, yeah.
Is this pre-demise of their bromance or post?
I think they have an investment in it. They're not like the face of the bars. It's not like Tom Tom and all that. It's really not like branded like that. Have you been to Charleston?
No.
Honestly,
never.
Because of reality TV, it really makes me want to go. It seems so cute.
Who's coming with us?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so apparently it's been way busier with tourists now, and now the locals are like, ugh, come on. It's like becoming Walt Disney here.
And I haven't traveled internationally since 2022, and
what a nightmare. I want to say two more things. One being, have you know that Housewives of London and Ladies of London were a thing? Mm-hmm. Okay, so like, did you watch any of them?
No,
So they got
watch
renewed for a
it.
second season's coming out in
Well,
September.
and I heard it was really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
I love
I have
it.
to watch
They're
that.
so reach. I love London, so it's so fun to watch shows there. It has like that royal thing going on and that European vibe, and they just like do it differently.
Yeah.
Ladies of London was also really good, but they didn't get a second season.
So I guess they didn't do that good.
It was so good. The ratings unfortunately didn't make it. And then like one more thing, which is a little bit more sad, but did you hear what happened at Berlin Pride?
Yes.
Just wanted to say that for a second, and even though I don't believe in thoughts and prayers, I mean, I'm just saying doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix the problem or anything.
It doesn't. Of course not. When I hear about these things, that is truly what. Like, I don't even want to talk about it because I'll start to cry.
Yeah, but it's
you
the
know?
reason why we still have pride when people ask why we have it.
Right. There is just a lot of darkness, and I hope that the trajectory changes.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know what happened, but a car did just drive into, I don't know if it was the parade, but a large gathering of people during Pride. And during Pride, most cities will have like blocked off streets where it's only pedestrians. So stay safe out there.
Stay safe out there. Don't let it hinder you from being you. It can be scary to do that, but there are a lot of safe spaces available.
This is one.
That is the one area in life where I just have zero tolerance. So do you, boo.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, I swear. No, it's nice.
Okay. I love you.
All right.
And that's part of what as I flatzy pick.
On scam le pompon.
But that is part of like what has evolved our friendship over however many years now, 20, is you always being such a safe space for me, and
Likewise.
yeah, and not having people who necessarily completely understand the experience. Anyways, we don't want to go and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Notice our stripes. It's like quasi planned. We both happen to have this shirt, and we're like, hey, let's wear a cute shirt in honor of the new season of Below Deck.
It's like, where is she going with this?
Below Deck. I feel like it's very like
No, but-
boating shit.
Yes, Below Deck is amazing this season, by the way. And it's always good. I always love it. It's an easy watch, and it's
I don't watch. I stopped watching it when Kate left.
yeah, it has better ratings than most Housewives shows.
I know. I
just
need
so
to
you
get
know.
into it. I need to get into
Yeah.
it. But now that we're
Actually,
living
they
together, you can force me.
They broke some sort of record this season.
Sick.
They had almost 1 million.
Well, and we spoke about like Summer House, how
Yeah.
when you're living. So we just said it, right? When you're working together, traveling together, living together.
Yeah, so Below Deck is the best recipe for reality TV. You're literally
Trifecta.
putting like young people hot on a boat, tiny quarters. They live there, they sleep there, they work there, they're exhausted, and then you go out and party, drink, pour the alcohol, and it's just the producers barely have to do anything. Mm-hmm. And there's always love triangles, and it's always one girl who's like the hard one to get, and then there's the one that's a little bit more like, I'm down to do this tonight. And then the
So if you were a girl,
the fuck boy always falls for like the one that's
down to do it
but he
tonight.
deep down likes the other girl, and then he screws up his chances with that girl because she's like, ew.
I mean, until
no
he
sex.
doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, then he's just got to like buy his way back. Tranquillement pas
Yeah.
vite.
I love it.
Tranquillement pas vite.
Okay, so now enough with the news. Let's go on to just last time I had to remind you about something about psychology. You're going down that rabbit hole, the usual. Tell me more. Tell us more.
So I feel like because we focus so much on relationships among women, there was a natural progression into exploring relationships in couples. And I feel like Bravo, you said it last time, producers love couples because they're messy and there's a lot to explore there. So Bravo creates a distance where you're able to look at other people's relationships, strangers' relationships. And it's a safe space for us to learn about pattern recognition among relationships before those red flags become your own.
I remember now, though, like I was saying, like reality in general is a big psychology experiment. And it's not just couple relationships, just like friendships.
Totally.
Any relationships, colleagues, people you work-
Intrapersonal.
and different types of personalities commingling. It's that's why it's so fascinating to watch.
For sure. And I feel like the term, similar to Girls Girl, I feel like the term red flag is also a term that we started using very ubiquitously. And are we using it appropriately? Like, there's a red flag, but then there's also incompatibility.
Yeah.
Then there's also mental health, which we're going to get into a little bit more. So are we too quick to condemn people for their supposed red flags without acknowledging? Let's dive a little bit deeper into that. What is that really about? And before we get into it in terms of how that plays out in recent Bravo shows,
Which we're going to do the Valley. And
we're going to really focus today on the Valley since it's coming to an end and we're awaiting the reunion, and also in the city since that now has concluded. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, because, you know,
I'm scared.
as a gay man who watches not an unhealthy amount of reality TV, but like, you know, who
Not unhealthy.
I'm not saying it's unhealthy, but you watch a lot of reality TV.
Yeah.
And let's be honest,
But let me correct you. I'm the type of reality TV guru that likes to watch Housewives and shows that are not competition. I don't like the love shows.
I know you
And I
don't.
know there's people like me out there.
of course,
So
I had to get over the love shows. Like I used to
can't.
really love them, and now
Love is Blind. And even Netflix reality
Love
TV
Island-
shows just
Oh,
don't do
yeah.
it the same way.
too hot to, I mean, I'll watch them if I have an opportunity where it's in a couch rotting binge watching mood, I'll do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I can't get into them. Love Island, there's too many episodes. I don't relate any longer. Anyways, I digress. But as a gay man who is an avid watcher of reality TV, where the majority of the relationships that are being shown are straight relationships, is there something that you have caught on to where you're like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Like you're saying that viewing straight couples and the what the fuckness that they display, is it similar to the reality that I have to deal with? I will preface by saying, yes, how is it's so much easier for us to judge other couples.
For sure.
And sometimes we do go too hard, and when you're in it, you don't see what everyone else is seeing. Plus, the show makes you see it even more.
Right.
But I had said this, I don't know if it was last episode or the other one, but reality TV couples for me don't seem real because we're watching them go through things where I personally would have been red flagged and it's done. I'm not going to continue here.
Like what? Give an example.
Oh, okay. A cheating like that before the wedding, like a week before, there's rumors coming out. Why would you continue with the wedding?
Interesting.
Would you?
I mean,
And I don't know if it's a straight thing or gay thing. I think it's the personality. If you look at Amanda, she is that weak figure, like Ciara said, that will stay with someone who is gonna.
but she is not alone in that. And to just refer to her as being like a weak figure when there would be a lot of people
Yeah.
who would find out something like that. And the stakes are so high at that point that you're like, if the person in front of you is telling you it's never going to happen again and it was a mistake and they don't even really remember it, and you're thinking, am I actually going to call off this wedding? It's like the stakes are high.
I'm just also not a relationship person, so like my take may be pretty whack, but and I find relationships in general are just full of drama.
That's true.
Most times it's like I have to be consoling someone
About their relationship.
Exactly. And I don't know if society puts this pressure that like being in a relationship means you're happy or you have to get married or you have to be with someone. It seems like a lot of people are doing things for the wrong reason, whether it's for a show or for reality in real life.
Right.
Even growing up, you have that pressure of you have to get married, you have to have kids.
And in that order.
And of course, when you're gay, you don't have as much of that pressure, but there's still that pressure of being in a relationship. You might not have to get married or have kids, but it's still there. But I feel like so many, and I don't know if it's from the outside, but it just seems like no one's happy.
Right.
And a lot of them, a lot of the relationships, whether it's gay or straight. At least gays sometimes can open up their relationship and that's more common or okay, but I don't see it as being a fix. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but straight couples, if they're open, they're going to be judged way more than a gay couple being open.
For sure. And I feel like in a straight couple, it's like we're not even exploring that conversation. Like, how do you feel about having different partners? How do you feel about exploring boundaries together as a couple and what that looks like? I feel like they just don't even talk about it, which ends up leading to, more often than not, women being cheated on by their husbands without them ever knowing that it's even happening.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not having that conversation. And women tend to be a little bit more loyal to a fault inherently.
Yeah. I also feel like having that information as a friend that you know there's cheating going on, a lot of women still stay.
Sometimes leaving is harder than staying. I mean, we'll definitely get into this more, but interesting perspective nonetheless. And I think that this is the perfect segue into the valley. And we can break the relationships down into two categories from the most recent episode as themes, not just for them, but in general. Incompatible futures. What does that look like? And also conditional commitment.
You can explain.
Yeah, I'll explain that. So
she's more of a relationship girl, so
incompatible futures, I really think about Zach and Benji. They had this really interesting conversation as partners where Benji expressed that he 100% wants to have kids. That is a non-negotiable for him, whereas Zach has expressed that he's still on the fence. And that is a very real, gay, straight, doesn't matter. That is a very real dynamic
issue, in real
between couples. Wanting to have kids is not a red flag. Not wanting to have kids is also not a red flag. However, what point
being in a relationship where those two don't match is a red flag for the relationship to last?
It's a red flag for the relationship to last if you're not openly having those conversations. Clearly they are openly having those conversations. At what point are you leading someone on? Like, to me, the red flag in that kind of dynamic would be more, I'm placating the person. I'm saying like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're just not there right now. Knowing in your mind that there is a possibility that you will never actually get there. Whereas in this case, they're being honest. They're being transparent. Zach is not saying, okay, well, I'm just going to have kids to make you happy. But who in that dynamic should be the one to leave? I feel like the onus gets placed on the person who doesn't want to have kids to end the relationship and be like, you know what? I don't know that I'm ever going to want to have kids. So I feel like we should just end this right here. But they're still figuring it out.
But are you saying it in a way where you think many couples are not having that conversation?
I feel like it's one of those things where you have a surface level conversation about it. It's like, okay, we're going to get married. We're going to have kids. It's just kind of like status quo. That is the default.
I always thought that conversation happens, especially if you're dating it like in this, 20s.
So the
30s.
Conversation happens, but what does the conversation look like? Yeah, we're going to have kids. How many kids do you want? I've always wanted 3. Oh, I want 2. Okay, we can compromise on that. It's not an interview, and it should be. You should have interview questions where it's like,
usually the first date.
How are you going to feel if we have a little boy and he's like, Mommy, put nail polish on my fingers?
You gotta go there.
Well, but like, okay, something like, I want to wear your dress. I want to put on makeup. Like, how are you going to feel about that? I feel like that's not the conversation people are having. People are having the conversation, do you want to have kids and how many do you want?
Yeah.
Where do you want to live when we have them? How big do we want our house to be?
How do you compromise if one doesn't want and one does?
Right. So that is a little bit more of a difficult dynamic to navigate. And how do you do
Yeah.
that? And who should be the person to decide ultimately?
Who's going to compromise?
Right. Because should kids ever be a compromise?
No.
Bringing people into the world should never be based on a compromise. So that's where there's like an incompatibility there. Is that a red flag? No. They're having the conversations, green flag, love that. They're being honest and vulnerable with each other, green flag, love that.
I will say sometimes people grow into wanting having children. So like at 30, there was a no, but by 35, it became, actually, I'm into it. So I do give that, if you keep having the conversation,
Yeah.
it could potentially change. However, the one that does want the kids, if they do wait 5, 6, 7 years and then you say, I still don't want it, then you just wasted all that time.
Exactly.
I don't want to use the word wasted, but
Right. No,
you're gonna have
but
to make a decision.
yes. So I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
That's really a question that I'm putting out there because it's something that I've thought a lot about. And seeing it on TV from a same-sex couple, I thought was especially interesting because then there is the added component of, let's say we were to decide that we do want to have kids, how are we going to do it? And there's so much more that goes into having children as a same-sex couple than as a straight couple. So I do think that that also lends itself to having better, deeper, more well-rounded conversations about it than a straight couple where we might just get pregnant. Just like it just might happen. And then at that point it's like, okay, well, we thought that we were going to have kids anyway. So here we are, let's just have a kid. So
I'm happy we're watching a gay couple go through
Me
it
too.
rather than like a usual straight couple.
yes, I really am enjoying that. And I feel like they're handling those conversations really well. And shout out to Benji, who is Canadian, one of us. So I mean, that's why.
Yeah. And even the immigration issues too is I'm sure a lot of people in the US are dealing with it. So
For sure.
Yeah.
So that would be like, that's where incompatibility does not always lead to red flags,
Yeah.
right? Unless we're choosing not to talk about it. Now, if we're talking about conditional commitment, so this was my other relationship category from the Valley. It's not like regardless of what we go through, we're going to be together. This is conditional. And I didn't know it was conditional, but now I'm realizing it's conditional.
Now I know what you
Now
mean.
you're connecting
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dots.
yeah.
So what couple do you think I'm talking about?
Kristen and
Luke.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we see that they're going to therapy, green flag. That's great. Love that. They're trying to work through their challenges, which are very common challenges.
But see, the therapy thing too, I know it's a green flag, but like it's so early on, like you're already seeing.
They have a child.
I know.
It's not that early on.
Carl and like Lindsay who were fucking going to therapy before their wedding. Like,
Yes.
like, is that normal?
I
don't
mean,
know.
maybe
like
we-
I said, my take might be whack, but I'm like,
Maybe we need to normalize that.
Amanda and Kyle going to therapy.
Too late.
And too late, but
There is something to be said. Some of my friends are actually therapists and they might tune into this. So please give me feedback if I'm saying anything that is misinformed. But a lot of people would actually benefit from going to therapy when things are going well. That's actually from a psychology standpoint, that is when you should be going to therapy, because in our society, we tend to be very reactive and not very preventative.
that I agree. I agree.
So Kyle and Amanda only going to therapy now when they're already discussing moving apart and this and that, and there's cheating and there's a decade of trauma and abuse.
I mean, I think they've been going for a while, but like, they're like, oh, we're going to therapy, so we're working on it. But are you really working on it? Or you're just going just to say, oh yeah, we're trying.
Right.
You really have to be in it 100%.
I agree.
To actually fix it.
And you both need to be willing participants for sure. But I commend Kristen and
Yes,
Luke
let's go back to
because
them.
they're not super early on in their relationship. But if they didn't have a child, they're early enough where going to therapy could actually maybe prevent certain obstacles down the road.
Yeah.
Now they have a child and clearly they're not on the same page. And he made a comment in their session that both Kristen and the therapist were like, that was a zinger. Do you remember what it was?
Hard to watch. I didn't know pregnant Kristen.
Right. I didn't know before I proposed to you.
It's dark.
That was fucking dark. And not to bash Luke at all, because I actually think that Luke is a pretty stand-up guy. He's in tune with his emotions. He allows himself to cry. The things that he's naming are real.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden you had a great sex life with your partner and then you have a baby and she's like, do not touch me. I am so touched out. That's true. That happens.
And I feel for the man. It's all new to them. They
For
didn't
sure.
go through the pregnancy. They don't
Exactly.
have all of that. And Kristen has been in the comments, not since maybe this particular episode, but early on when Luke was getting some backlash, being like, she was defending him, being like, hey, he also has to.
Yes.
It's all new to him.
Right.
He's
doing his best.
Yeah, and he will never understand what Kristen is going through, and he doesn't know any better. And it's the first child. You know, the second one may be different.
Right.
So I see both sides.
100%. And truly, again, I know I've said it already, but like as a woman who's never gotten pregnant, I wouldn't even say like no man will ever understand. Not just no man, no person who's never gotten pregnant will understand what it is like to create bones in your body that then all of a sudden go and live outside in the real world. And you're like, what the fuck? There's literally a piece of my insides that's just out there wandering around and I have no control over it. That's fucked. And I think that his comment was legitimate, something that probably a lot of men feel.
Then he made a comment about Janet being like, do you believe her? I don't know that. Again, I feel like a lot of the men on the valley have like these good moments and then they take a step back.
Ooh, that I don't like.
Like,
That almost bothers me more.
yeah, that's bothersome. Okay, because like you were going on a nice plus on him and I was like, ooh, I don't know if you remember this comment.
I did not remember that comment.
Yeah.
And that's where I will say, no men, it's not for you to question a woman's experience and what she's gone through. And like, don't say that shit out loud, especially not on national television. Like, no. Women have been silenced enough about SA. And if a woman is coming forward and saying it, you could think whatever the fuck you want about it, but like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And it's just shocking that like Kristen is so not like that. You know,
At all.
Yeah.
She is such an advocate. So
there's a lot of the red flags were those comments that he made when it comes to the relationship, the therapy session, but even that conversation on the boat.
remind me.
Because Jesse, I think, had told him, wait, what did he say? He's like, oh yeah, he said he wasn't sure if he wanted to marry her
Right.
anymore. That's wild. You can't commit to that, but let's have a baby.
Right. That's the commitment, folks.
Yeah, because
The child is the commitment.
that's where you don't want it. That's worse. At least when you're getting married, you're not affecting anyone else.
Exactly. Right.
And then when you bring a child in, then you're affecting someone else.
You're affecting a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a great segue for us to move into the relationship
In the city ones?
in the city. The
Yeah.
the
Reunion.
the reunion aired. We have both
low budget
episodes. The
watch
low
off.
budget reunion. We were watching the reunion. I was like, oh, is it just me or?
The in the city when they bring it back
Right.
is like a lower budget than this.
I'm like, I feel like our visuals are nicer. That made me feel so good. I was like, fuck yeah. It would be a fun plot twist for us for this episode, branching out into the theme of relationships. I feel like
scared. What are you gonna say?
I feel like we should maybe consider doing overrated or overhated with a couple or a relationship. And of course, after today, we are never going to talk about them as a couple again. I promise.
Thank you.
So who?
Amanda and Kyle.
That's right.
After
Amanda
this
and Kyle.
reunion,
But episode 2, and I only wanted to talk about them. This is not who I wanted to initially use, but based on the second reunion episode, there's a lot to
Yeah.
talk about. The concept of red flags. Is public behavior enough evidence for how healthy a relationship is? So in yesterday's episode, Andy actually came in. If you haven't watched the reunion yet,
Just skip.
spoilers.
Yeah, skip through this part.
Pause, watch, come back.
Definitely come back.
But Andy says, like, I'm going to ask you something that pisses you off, but when you talk to Amanda that way, calling her a dumbass bitch, we're seeing that on camera. What the fuck were you saying to her when you were at home?
Yeah. Complete. What? There was red flags all 10 seasons. And it was always leaning towards Kyle, the red flags.
Okay, so already you're like, so overrated or overrated?
Okay, I go. That's the question.
Kyle and Amanda, their
Okay.
relationship, what would you say?
overrated.
Their relationship has always been overrated.
Yeah. And it's been clearer and clearer now.
Right.
But I'm also just left confused. But I think the depression thing also has me thinking about being in a relationship with someone with depression. The partner also has to go through their own, it's almost like a grievance, because you're not dealing with the same person that you may have started dating, or you're seeing a different side of them, but you're also not trained to how to navigate being in a relationship with someone that has that sort of mental illness. And based off his personality, he's very social, loves to go out. And I'm not a doctor here, but I'm sure, you know, based off what they've said, she stays home and, you know, recluse and completely opposite. Now, was that the depression or that's how she is? I don't know. But I also think the way you speak to someone going through that is also important.
Yes.
And so knowing that she had that and him speaking to her like that on camera chills.
100%. You know, Andy asked her, is that something that would happen a lot in your relationship? And she was alluding to the fact that yes, that it was typically Kyle who would call her names, and then Kyle got very defensive about it. And I think it was Georgina who chimed in, and she was like, bro, you've been given such a big pass. Like, you are the luckiest Bravo celebrity ever, because if we think about how much Kyle would have been like ripped a new asshole on the reunion of Summer House had it not been for the Amanda West scandal. Kyle was really being vilified throughout the season, and now him being such a stand-up person, has that given him a pass? Has that allowed us to negate some of his problematic behavior?
But I have two things. Do you think that
Mic drop.
thinking now about the depression, do you think, and seeing how he's been post-divorce or post-separation, do you think that he stayed with her because of that, and it would have made him look bad leaving someone in that state, you know, like through sickness and death? Because I've always been confused why they stayed together for so long, but maybe because he was with her in that state, he felt guilty leaving?
That's a really good question. And next episode, I want us to dive a little deeper and look into that, because that was something that you said to me a lot when we were watching, like, well, why did you stay? And people do stay.
I know.
And are they staying because they don't recognize it? Are they staying because it's easier to stay than it is to leave? I think there's a lot for us to unpack there. So I'm not going to fully answer that question.
Don't, but I will say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I will say, when I was watching, you know, the part where Amanda and Kyle were going back and forth, and I hate saying this, and this may me not being a girl's girl, but I was kind of a bit more on Team Kyle.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you were.
I lost. The credibility for me. I've lost it a little bit for Amanda.
Right.
I don't believe everything she says anymore. I'm not saying regarding her relationship, but you know, her saying the reunion that the reason why she was literally just sitting there was because that's what happens when she feels attacked.
Right.
But I don't think that's true.
Well, and I think that
She couldn't face the music.
Right. And I think that Amanda, like, I am not invalidating her experience navigating her mental health. That is a very real thing. And you touched on it perfectly. That was like my next category of like depression or mental health and libido, and how that can affect your relationship, because of course it's affecting both partners. At what point does becoming a caregiver turn into natural scorekeeping, and then you build resentment? But a grievance that I have with Amanda, the selective accountability, and how she's much more quick to be accountable when it's with a certain person versus another. And yesterday was a great example of that, when Amanda, who I didn't watch the Summer House season reunion, I lived it, I didn't have to watch it, and yet was so quick to be like, you know what, Danielle, you're right. I watched the season back of In the City and I cringed at my own behavior. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was so happy when Andy said it. He was like, well, where was that accountability when Sierra was sitting across from you? And her response to that was, well, I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Which I don't believe. There was plenty of time to talk.
Sometimes it's easier for us to be accountable when the stakes are lower.
Yeah.
She doesn't care about her friendship with Danielle.
At
She's
all.
just trying to like have fewer enemies at this point.
But it did clearly show that she never cared about Ciara. She had no. And I think that being with West, I'm sure he was saying that they never really had a relationship, that it wasn't real. So in her mind, and I don't agree with it, but for her, the way she goes to bed at night is knowing that, oh, they didn't have a real relationship. It wasn't a big deal. And that's why I don't really have to take accountability.
Right.
I don't have to lean into that. I think that's what's in her mind to a certain degree.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. Okay. So that's,
The rest of the reunion was good. Like, it wasn't, I'm glad it was 2 parts. Thank God it wasn't more.
yeah, I'm
But
glad it was 2
let-
parts. Was there anything else on the, like Danielle and Owen?
Oh my God, yes. The Danielle and Owen. So a little backstory, and this is an account on Insta, like Bravo and Cocktails. They get all the tea. They're like the Dermois of Bravo. These like 2 middle-aged women. They're amazing. I love listening to them. And they were saying, oh, they're the leak that you see on the show from the beginning
The
where
Nene leak?
where it keeps showing up that Danielle's with a married man, or that's
Okay.
yeah. So she wasn't supposed to be on the show, Danielle. Like, they had to, I think, start filming or whatnot, but she wasn't really a fan favorite from Summer House. She wasn't on the last season, so she wasn't friends with Lindsay. So her coming on the show didn't make sense. But then this story got leaked, and producers asked her to be on the show. And the cast knows that. So it's like, you're on the show for this one reason, but you don't want to talk about this one reason. And that's why even at the wedding, Lindsay was like breaking the fourth wall. It's like, you're on the show, but you're
Why
not
are you
talking
on the
about.
show?
But it was really because you're on the show because of this one reason, and that one reason is not being
Is the only thing that
yeah.
you refuse to talk about.
And so
Don't Google me.
at that reunion, they were kind of trying to talk about it without breaking the fourth wall.
Right.
So it was frustrating to just like, guys, just talk about it, nip it in the butt, and we can move on. That's what makes, like, Lindsay and Kyle, like, they know what they're doing, and
Right.
they were telling you, just you should talk about it. Oh, and them gossiping about it, but like, we're in reality TV, you're gonna talk about the rest.
What
of
do
the
you think
cast.
is gonna
Like, what
happen?
are you being paid for?
What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah,
Yeah, Owen, I have to say he's attractive.
yeah. He
He's-
might be just not for reality TV. Like, I don't think he might want to get involved in this mess. 'Cause
Right.
I understand not wanting to talk about it in real, like, with
for
your friends.
sure.
Like,
But
it's
I mean,
so
I
personal.
would not join a reality TV
Yeah,
show.
Exactly. That's why a lot of husbands don't join with their wives, because I'm like, we're not talking about this on camera.
Well, and they even said, like, Andy asked them, "Are you guys planning on getting married?"
And when they should,
When because his divorce is not finalized,
Right,
so they're pregnant, they're having a baby, but his divorce is not finalized.
we're gonna have
that-
another Kristen and Luke.
Is that a red flag? Like,
Yeah.
eek. I don't know. I don't want to say that it. I don't want to
Yeah,
be
I-
judgmental and say that it is a red flag, but it's like let's not.
Yeah.
Again, I'm. Let's not bring life into the world until we feel like all
Yeah.
of our things are in order.
Again, it brings it back down to like society where like women want to have kids so badly, so they just end up doing it.
And their clock is ticking.
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
Their clock really is ticking, but there are ways for women to slow down the clock.
Yeah.
Those are perhaps less explored. But anyways, again, that's a conversation for
Its own.
another time. But because you're also not watching Real Housewives of OC,
Oh, yeah. Tell me
but
what's
I
going-
am.
tell me what's
I'm,
going
no, I'm
on.
not even going to tell you what's going on because not enough. There are things that I could update us on from previous comments that we had made about OC. Like, you didn't know the new girl. Her name's Carmela. Or the tea from this past episode is that she bought Emily a gold Dior clutch for her birthday and a vibrator. And so there's a bit of discord among the ladies because apparently she kept saying, like, are you going to open your gifts at the party? Are you going to open your gifts at the party? We didn't see that on camera. Oh, why was she so excited? Like, why did she get you a Dior clutch? Is she trying to really promote how wealthy
Yeah.
she is
Okay, yeah.
and whatever? And then what about the
trying hard.
appropriateness factor of the vibrator? And so there was
Emily also looks very different.
Emily is in shape.
Yeah.
She's lost a lot of weight. She goes to the gym every single day. But anyways, in inspiration of something that I thought was very much a red flag on Real Housewives of OC, I actually came up with a little game
Okay. Go.
in honor of today's episode. So very simple. I wrote
This, I'm scared.
no, don't be scared.
Okay.
I wrote some things down. I'm going to just like spitfire them to you. I'm not going to comment on possible answers. Is this an example of a red flag, a green flag, or a yellow flag, which means you need more context. It's not so red and green.
And if I say yellow, will you give me more context or we're
No.
moving on? Okay.
We're moving on.
Okay. Hit it. Whatever comes to my mind first.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1, they say after about 3 months of dating, I'm just not ready for labels.
Red.
They've cheated on previous partners.
Red.
They clap when the plane lands.
Huge red.
That's the big one so far. They've cheated on previous
That's a
partners.
problem.
Red.
That means they're not well traveled.
Oh. Okay. I clap sometimes. I'm not well traveled.
I cringe.
How many continents have I visited?
Oh yeah. How many have you?
2.
Europe and North America.
That's right.
Wow. Globetrotter.
Globetrotter.
Globe. Trotter.
They've never lived alone.
Oh. They've never lived alone?
Yeah. You're dating somebody and they've never lived alone before.
Yellow.
Oh, okay. They still share a bank account with their ex.
Oh, red.
They say, trust me, a lot.
Red.
They've never been single for more than a month.
Red. Give me some green.
Not this one.
Okay.
They refuse to watch reality TV because it's beneath them.
Huge red. On my profiles will be like, you have to watch reality TV.
On Grindr?
No, there I don't care.
Right. They flirt with the waiter in front of you.
Green.
Oh,
I don't really care.
Oh, okay. Based on our conversation last night with crushes and this and that, my God.
I know. I feel like I do the same.
I
find it's fun.
Right. I mean, and what is flirting? Like,
Yeah.
could we could spend an entire episode defining the word flirt. What does
Yeah.
that mean?
It's nothing.
Exactly. This one's really for you. They make more money than you and enjoy spending it on you.
Green. Guilty.
G for guilty. Not G for green.
We got
I'd be
that.
like, I'd be like red.
Yeah,
Red. They say I'm an alpha.
Manosphere red.
On Grindr?
Doesn't matter.
They call their mother every single day.
Oh, that's green.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. They bought a ring, but they haven't given you the ring. But they keep talking about the ring that they bought for you.
Red.
Red. So,
The fact that I know is weird.
exactly. And who am I talking about, viewers, with that last one? My fans of Real Housewives of OC. That one was pulled directly from something that happened on this week's episode. Which housewife do you think is in a relationship with a person who bought a ring but is dangling the ring in front of her?
Is it Jen?
No.
Is it not the new one then? No. Who's on that show? Vicky.
Yeah.
Is she with a white Republican?
Yeah. So turns out she is in another relationship with a white Republican. I don't know that I know he's white. I don't know that he's a Republican, but I would assume as much.
Well, speaking of that, do you think, in terms of not red flags, but non-negotiables, do you think that two people with different political stances can date or marry in today's climate?
No.
I don't think so either.
If I were single and I went on a date, literally my date would be, let's go for a drink. Before we sit down for dinner, we're just going for a drink. We're going to sit at the bar. We're going to go for a
is always
drink.
good no matter what.
Right.
Because you don't have to commit to like a full thing.
The first question I would ask them is like, if you were an American, who would you have voted for in the who would you have voted for in the most recent election? And if their answer is,
Opposite yours.
yeah, exactly. If their answer does not immediately align with mine,
Okay. I could hook up with them and that's it.
right, but like a relationship, no.
it'd be
Was
hard.
that always the case? No. Do I want that to be the case moving forward? Do I think it's healthy for people to have?
It's too dark now.
Oh, it's very polarized, and
bad. It
so
sucks.
now it's a hard. Anyways, so yeah, Vicky, our girl, is in a relationship with a new white man who she loves so much, and he's so good to her, but
Okay.
he bought a ring and is dangling it, isn't
Okay.
giving it to her,
But Vicky's bad with red flags, girl. Like she has no idea.
and
Like literally,
that
they can be like bright red, like literally
fluorescent
dangling,
red.
like mistletoe she sees instead.
And that I think to wrap this all up.
I have actually one more thing I want to ask
Fine.
you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think Amanda doesn't see the red flags at West?
Do I think that she doesn't see the red flags with Wes? No, I think she sees them.
Yeah, they're bright, and she's just like, he
think
chose me.
right. Exactly. I think she's leaning into and as a lot of girls do, like Lauren Conrad, there's so many girls that we can talk about. I'm going to be the one to change them. I'm going to be the one that they are going to choose to change for. And I'm going to wait it out
Yeah.
to prove others and myself right. And sometimes you wait it out to your own demise.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I think she sees them too.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely think she sees them.
And now I think, like we spoke last time, I think now they're just in it because they have to.
Right.
They have no choice. They have to go the distance. And he can be doing whatever he wants.
And
She's not going to leave. She didn't leave Kyle. She didn't have that strength. She's not going to have it this time.
if you couldn't leave Kyle,
Yeah.
you're definitely not leaving this relationship. If you couldn't, like when Paige sat her down and was like, you know how much harder it is to, in 10 years from now, leave a marriage than it is for you to just call off a wedding.
Yeah. She even said even 2 months after the wedding, it makes it harder.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of the ring, when you said, who did you think of? You thought of Vicky. I actually thought of Paige because Craig apparently had a ring for her, but never showed it.
And Paige was like,
You're
he
lying.
didn't have a ring.
Exactly.
He didn't have a ring. That is not fucking true. And I believe her. I don't believe Craig.
No.
But I think bringing it back to West, bringing it back to this Vicky thing about how, like, regardless of the person she's with, Vicky herself, let's be honest, when it comes to relationships, is a bit of a walking red flag.
Yeah.
And when we want to correctly define it, it's not so much like you have an off moment, you're struggling with your mental health, you're incompatible. Those are things that happen in life. A red flag to me is a pattern when your behavior is the same and it's just showing up in different clothing.
Yeah.
And for Vicky, she shows up to her relationships the exact same every single time. West seemingly as well.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, but
that was fun.
This was fun. And so next episode, we're going to remind me to tell you.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
were, yeah, because you seem to have.
I kind of have like a vision a little bit. So now we've talked about red flags, and next episode I want us to bring it back to what you had spoken about earlier, and when we see the flags, why do people stay? That
When the
too,
science works, you don't see it.
right? What the science? What did I miss something?
Yeah.
The science works.
We're talking about it next episode, so we're not getting into it right now.
No, we're not getting
Yeah,
into it.
I'll remind you.
You can remind me. That's what I want to talk about. I want to explore it a little bit deeper, not just identifying them,
There we
but
go.
yeah, exactly.
I want to see how the reunion goes.
Me too.
I'm really curious to see if anything has changed once they've watched it. Kristen and Luke, I'm interested to see
Yes.
their perspective now that they've watched it.
Right.
I feel like Luke will maybe apologize.
I hope so.
Yeah, I don't think Danny.
Red flag. So
Yeah.
remind me to talk to you about
Yes.
that a little bit next time.
Can't wait.
Can't wait either. And truly, those of you watching, those of you tuning in, we are so excited about getting feedback from you. So if there are things that you're like, please cover this a little bit.
Yeah, it's early stages. We can go in any direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then please also like rate, review,
Subscribe,
click
follow.
We're on Instagram and TikTok. It's
RM2TU.
It's remind me to tell you. So
Oops.
yeah,
Remind me to tell you. Pod.
for both TikTok and Instagram. And then we're also on YouTube, and you can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast.
Exactly. And we hope the sound was
Good this time. Well, it better
gone with
be.
the wind.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Atlanta quote for,
Thank
for
you.
a non-watcher. Good for you.
Thank you.
Taught you well.
You did.
Okay, guys,
Okay.
it was so much fun.
Thanks for tuning in.
Illy.
Illy. Does that count as I love you? Have you guys said I love you yet? Does Illy count?
It's a weird question to ask.
Bye.
Illy.
Illy.